if you tell me that you raped a girl and then the dad came and cut off parts of your body, I don't have a problem with that. But the police can't do that. And that was the issue, that these police officers were out there torturing.
Hey, Delishees, grab a plate and taste the delicious culture. I'm your host, Jon Francois. Wow, we are feasting on food, pop culture, and lifestyle with former Baptist minister, FBI agent, SWAT operator, author of the upcoming book, Irreverent, From Saving Souls to Chasing Sinners in the FBI, Eric Robinson. Eric, I was literally talking about you to my wife last night. I was like, guess what, baby? Like a Baptist minister who was an FBI agent who became a SWAT operator. And she had the same expression that I did. It was just like, wow, that is a leap from one unrelated thing to another. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. I grew up in the Midwest, and then where I was a Baptist pastor, everybody hunted too. So you go, oh yeah, well, at least he knew how to work a rifle. I never handled a handgun. I didn't know anything. So
really,
it was a little change for me.
So I mean, I guess the logical first question is tell me your Baptist minister background and how somehow that transitions to you working for the FBI, especially since you had never handled a handgun, because I would think that's a pretty important prerequisite for being in the FBI.
Yeah, real quick on that. The firearms instructors, and guy who never handled a gun, I later was a firearms instructor because I became much more proficient.
What?
They prefer that to work with people who have never shot. So you get cops in there who don't get much training, get a little bit of training, and then just have bad habits. And now you got to break that bone, and reset it. Military guys who I was skipping rounds as we started while these guys were shooting what I thought was great, but was actually poor. And, they're here and they're getting incrementally better. And then I'm getting, now we're the same.
Yeah, it's easier to teach somebody who has nothing in their head, no knowledge, and you can start them fresh and teach them from beginning to end, rather than someone like you said, who is like, all right, I have learned this and that, and I know better than you. And for the instructor, it becomes a difficult pain in the ass.
Yeah, and I knew nothing, so I was perfect for it.
Yeah.
I started out Christian home, went to church, usual things, and then going through college, I came to a place where I thought, okay, I should get into ministry full time. I know the Bible. I understand the importance of sharing these things. It's something I like to do. I think I'm effective at it. And so I started on a path, which is going to come through a little bit later to the FBI question, of training to be a missionary to Muslim people. And so I had studied Islam in college. I had that training of working with Muslim people, learning their culture.
And I'm sorry, where are you from? Where did you grow up?
Oh, that's a great question. This was going to Miami of Ohio, Oxford, Ohio, Miami University. Grew up in the Toledo, Ohio area. Eventually got to come back to this area too.
Dumb question, but I do see posters for Miami University. I think I saw it in a mall in my home state of Connecticut. I live right here in Vermont currently, but yeah, when I went to visit family in Connecticut, it was like, oh, Miami University. It must be in Miami, but it's in Ohio. Can you tell me the story behind that?
Yes, the story is, it's called that because of the Miami Native Americans tribe in that area. And anyone who's going to Miami of Ohio, Miami University, knows this phrase, we were a university before Miami was a city in Florida.
Oh, that's their pride and joy. Okay.
Yeah, the college was founded in 1809.
Wow. So tell me about your education there in ministry and such.
Started with journalism, then moved into religion and focused more on Islam. I had gone on a missions trip summer of my junior year to the country of Turkey to reach out to college students who were pretty good English speakers. So they liked engaging so they could practice their English with native-born speakers. And then, look for opportunities to now sneak in talking about Jesus. And I came back. And so this is the early fall before my senior year. And I see 4 cute Christian girls sitting at a frozen yogurt shop. And I had a ring on my finger, which I had bought while I was in Turkey as my promise to go back as a missionary. And I take off the ring and I put it on the table and I say, who wants to marry me and go to Turkey? And this cute curly-headed brunette says, I will. And she puts it on her finger. And I'm like, yeah, I wasn't talking to you. I wasn't talking to you. You have a boyfriend. Like, give one of these single gals an opportunity. Well, that young lady eventually wrote me while she was in college and said, oh, my boyfriend broke up with me. And I said, that's a shame. And 2 years later, I put a better ring on her finger.
So the woman that you eventually married, how long had you known each other leading up to the point where you asked her to marry you?
Well, I knew her in college. She's 2 years behind me. So I'd known her for a couple of years. We had a bit of a whirlwind. That created some issues with her family.
What issue?
We were young. I was 23. She was 21. Mom had some problems with men along the way. So she was worried that her baby was going to get into trouble. This is 33 years ago now. So I feel like we've made it okay so far.
So mom thinks that 23-year-olds just have like a sketchy, unreliable thing about themselves.
I don't know, man. I thought I was a pretty good catch.
Yeah, I would agree. So, okay. And what about Islam fascinated you enough to want to study into it?
Well, it was a wide open field. Again, my mindset at that time was we've got to go out, tell people the gospel, make sure they know the truth, can make the right choices. That's changed a little bit in my perspective since then. But the idea is like, this is there's so many people to talk to. They also come from a position of just off of what the Bible might say, respecting Jesus, considering him a prophet. And so there was a bit of a starting ground to that, as opposed to other more esoteric religions that are harder to find connections to. So, with Islam, it's an Abrahamic religion. It's a cousin to Christianity, to Judaism. So, okay, I have some familiarity with this.
What also caught me was earlier when you mentioned that, you were bonding with like non-native English speakers and kind of getting them well versed in the English language and then sneaking the gospel onto it. And I'm sure you were kind of joking about it, but is that sort of how it goes? Because I don't know. I'm just thinking of like, something like a Jehovah's Witness or maybe a devout Christian who is trying to get me into the Christianity religion. Is the device usually to convert somebody, have a conversation based on their interests or based on a desire of theirs, say, to learn English, and then gradually try to work the gospel in it? Is that usually how it goes?
Not only did I not like the idea of trying to trick somebody or just straight up cold forcing, hey, here's the gospel and here's how stand on the street corner and yell at people. Not only was I uncomfortable with that, I believe that it was impractical. So for years I had been doing outreach like this, evangelism, and I know like if you got to have some kind of an interest in the first place. And so, if I'd go talk to guys and they're playing video games, they're not interested right now. There's no point in trying to break them away. So we would talk about similarities, differences between our religions, and just begin that conversation to see if we can get to some place where, okay, I see that you are open to me telling you what I think is true and just offer that for you to consider. One of the things that always stood out to me in the Bible, my favorite parable, is where Jesus talks about, he says, the kingdom of heaven is like a treasure hidden in a field, and a man comes upon the treasure and knowing its value, he sells everything he has so he can buy the field. And I believe that in the sense of people have to understand what they're getting. They have to see that this is a valuable treasure because they're giving up everything else in order to follow this lifestyle, follow a new God. So the idea of arguing somebody into having a logical explanation only to say, this is why I believe you're right. There's a lot more to completely changing your faith or the way that you live.
So how are we getting to the FBI, Eric? I'm very curious.
That's
such an abrupt transition. I'm listening to you and I'm like, oh my God, this sounds like a great guy who's trying to convey something that he believes strongly in to others, and now he's going to work for the government. Like, how do we get to that?
Yeah, we're not getting there because you keep asking me about church questions.
Oh, no. I was curious. But then now it's like, oh, FBI. Does it come in college? Does it come in when you marry the girl? Like, do you have to protect her from something?
Yeah,
like,
no.
I don't know.
So Becky and I were set to be missionaries overseas, and those family issues came up, caused problems. And then we just got to the point of thinking, I don't think it's wise for us to put that added stress upon us, being young and then having the stress from the family, the opposition. So then transition to say, okay, let's just stay stateside, do the usual stuff. So youth pastor, graduate school, assistant pastor. And then while I was the assistant pastor at a Baptist church in Western New York, they said, hey, we'd like to plant a new church off of ours. And I said, I'd love to. Went through the classes and the affirmation that says, yep, you're capable of doing this, and planted a church in the next town over. And that was set up to be one that welcomed people in who didn't normally go to church. So I didn't want to just swap Christians from one seat to another. I told people we're going to reach folks who are curious about Jesus, but don't feel comfortable going to church because they're judged, it's unfamiliar, it's inaccessible. And I told that core group that we started with, if we're going to make errors, we're going to err on the side of grace. So God's going to judge us for being too kind, if he's going to judge us. So I want you to be able to open your arms to people who aren't dressed right for church, people who come in with tattoos and piercings that are unfamiliar to you, people who have alcohol in their breath, gay couples, like you see two men walking and holding hands, you've got to be able to just go, so glad you're here. And they said, yep, we're in. And that's the church we had. So that's what I pastored for years. And yet my problem, though I felt successful and we're changing lives and I loved what we were doing, is I didn't understand how to separate myself from other people's problems. And so when they came to me with their normal issues, just nothing out of the ordinary, I then went home burdened by their problems. And because of that, for 2 straight years, every single day, every day, I had a headache. And it would last most of the day. And I pushed through it, but I got to a point of realizing I either have to stop this or my body will just stop and I don't know what it's going to do because I can't do this every day. And so I told my wife, I got to find a job with less stress. So I joined the FBI.
Which is, wow, that's saying something about the FBI. If it's less stressful than a Baptist ministry, I would feel like a Baptist ministry would be a walk in the park compared to the FBI.
It just was different. It was different stress. Obviously, there were stressful things, but I didn't care. Like if I'm dealing with a guy who's got a drug addiction in my church, that doesn't just go away. If I'm arresting a guy who's got a drug addiction, okay. Or, he gets away or whatever it is. It didn't matter the same way. My job was to bring justice. My job was to get indictments, arrest people. Okay, moving on. Next. And the day that I got accepted in the FBI, the headache stopped. So that was a cue that I was doing the right thing.
Wow. You mentioned being fatigued or overwhelmed by all the problems coming at you from church visitors when you were a minister. I'm thinking of that term that my wife told me, because my wife, Tony, here in Vermont, she is a veterinary technician. Mm-hmm. And something that veterinary technicians commonly experience is like something along the lines of like empathy fatigue or sympathy fatigue. Yeah. Like you're dealing with so much from clients who, oh my God, like, please like fix this thing with my animal. And oh my God, my animal has to be put down and the emotions that come from that. I mean, you deal with that on a regular basis. It could burn you out and you may want to leave the industry. So that's what I was thinking about when you were talking about being burdened by people's problems. Am I right on that? And what kinds of, I don't know, because I think of like what people might come to their pastor for, and I think maybe they are talking about financial troubles and they want to be blessed by the pastor to have good luck, maybe the Lord will make them rich. But give me a sense of the kind of troubles that people would come to you with that would really, really, really overwhelm you.
Well, John, my church was meant to be one. So Baptist church I was in before, like these were generations of people who went to church. And so everybody has problems, but these people were living a straighter life. I was looking to reach out to people who didn't go to church, weren't raised by parents who went to church and didn't have the same values. So they're coming in, and to your question, lead worship singer got a girl pregnant, and like that's not a good look.
Wait, why is that not a good look? What's the whole thing behind that?
They weren't married, and in the Baptist church, you don't even go to rated R movies. You don't dance because dancing might lead to you getting a girl pregnant. It was very strict. I was trying to get away from that, but it was that situation. Another worship leader, her husband, who was high in the church, just like had a mental break, met a girl online and left his wife and 3 kids. Like that doesn't just stop where, okay, that event happened. Whereas in the FBI, I get an indictment, I'm moving on to the next case. So your point about your wife getting that empathy fatigue, here's a day where she's dealing with animals that are sick, that are hurt, that are injured, and guess what? Tomorrow it's the same.
Yeah.
And so there's no finish line for your wife. She can feel good about, okay, we took care of these, but tomorrow could be a bad case in the church. I didn't go to someone and say, congratulations, now you're perfect and have no more problems. Moving on to this one. And the FBI got the indictments, case is done, moving on. Let's do something about these next group of people.
Okay. I swear, I feel like these are my last two church questions before we get to the FBI, because I'm curious. So please bear with me. And maybe I'll try to roll these two questions into one. So to the person, the worship singer that got the girl pregnant, I'm wondering if, I know you said it was a very strict environment, but still wondering if there was a thought that occurred either in your mind or someone else's mind that traditionally this is frowned upon in the church to get someone pregnant without being married to them. But maybe this is an opportunity to talk about personal responsibility, and you got this girl pregnant and now you all have to figure out what to do with that. Do you want to keep the baby? Do you not? How do you, was there any exploration of that, or was it just simply black and white? No, you're not married, and therefore this entire thing is a sin and cannot be dealt with.
Yeah. So John, the what you're talking about is very reasonable.
I'm just asking questions. I'm not in judgment here.
That's the flaw.
Yeah.
The church doesn't. It just has a different point of view depending on what church you're in. And again, if you're going to go from strict to loose, the Baptist church is very strict. I mean, the church that we planted off of. Now, granted, I was the lead pastor, but when I was the assistant pastor, we're playing Uno with some kids, and these old ladies were like, I never thought I'd see the day that cards were being played in the house of the Lord. I'm like, it's not strip Uno. We're not drinking when it's off board. Just outrageously. And I was trying to come back from that, but we're still in this realm of between you and me and the way that I am now. I've changed a decent bit from when I was pastoring. But if I see somebody who gets someone pregnant out of wedlock, I'm just like, hey, buddy, is there anything I can do to help you? There, it's like, oh my gosh, this is a scandal. Can he even be upfront because he's a fallen leader? There's so much stigma with it that it brings complications. So your question is ridiculous because of its simplicity.
Well, sorry. And this might be another ridiculously simpleton question. Forgive me. I grew up in a Baptist Christian environment. My parents raised me that way, and I eventually just left the religion. And one of the reasons that turned me off from it was how the church has traditionally treated members of the queer community, because along the way in life, I went from my parents telling me that, oh, I should fear and judge gay people, to me just finding out on my own through friends and conversations with others that they're people just like I am people as a straight person, and they have the right to love whoever they want. So,
who knows?
Yeah, right. Yeah, who knew? So, and along the way, I found out that there was a beautiful nuance in Christianity, because I found that there are churches that traditionally don't accept the queer love lifestyle, and then there are churches that are open to that are like, hey, if you love God, then we don't care who you love. Come in, you're welcome. So I guess my question to the grace that you were able to give to that gay couple that you mentioned back in your church days, when you had them come into the church, regardless of them being gay, is the goal to just simply hey, we want to accept you and become God-loving people, and that's it? Or is it all right, we want to have you read the Word of God, and then maybe that'll convert you away from the gay lifestyle? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's a really good question. The difficulty is me trying to answer it now, because now I can tell you easily. My answer is, hey, we want to love you and help you love other people and build a community. Yeah. And this is what we think God says. And also, now I'm going to stop following that same ridiculous, just inhuman line of dogma that you and I both grew up with, which is, well, you hate the sin, but you love the sinner. And that's garbage.
Yeah.
So I hate how you identify. I hate who you are. I hate that you love this person, but I love you. And
it's
that's
weird.
bullshit.
Yeah.
That's not legitimate. And this is great because I always wanted to be accepting. So if we're talking about back then, I'm like, nope, I want to be accepting. I still want to be true to scripture. And I had that view of scripture of the hard line. And then this is what's awesome, John. This is why I'm a better person now. I'm trying to think how many years ago, about 5 years ago, my oldest came to us and said he's transgender. And so that broke me. That's what I needed to snap me from that. I want to give grace, but still there's truth here because I believe in God. I believe he's real. And I can tell you some reasons why I think that, but I don't see him. That kid, I see him. So I'm going to value what I can touch over something I trust and have faith in, but is unseen and unknown. So you want to call it blasphemy. I'm going to value my family over this notion of God that you and I could argue about and neither of us is right. So why not value what is definitely true? So fully loving, fully kind, showing kindness, fully embracing my child for everything that they believe and trust and abandoning the things that I was trusting in before. And I found that, my gosh, that's so freeing. So the notion that evangelicals meaning well would always hold to is, scripturally speaking, to speak the truth in love, which they mean as when I tell you that homosexuality is wrong, the love is that I'm saving you from hell. So that's me showing you love. And again, garbage. So now I don't speak the truth in love. I just love. That's so much simpler. Look at that. Just love people. Great.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And as for a kid who transitions, as you mentioned about your oldest, I feel like, again, going back to nuance, like it is possible to be both compassionate to the person that they genuinely are while also being understandably scared for what that reality could mean for them, like everything from the surgery to how they're treated by others. And
you are so on. And so this is not what you thought you're going to get into with an FBI agent.
I know, right?
So this is what I had to reconcile and deal with. So I was concerned, like, hey man, that's a choice that's going to be tough for you. So I support you, but living as a trans man is harder than it's harder than just being like a lesbian. Like this is tough.
Right.
So I so I'm scared for that. But the biggest thing I had to grapple with was me mourning what I wanted.
Right.
I envision, hey, they're going to grow up, meet a guy, I'll have grandkids. That was my dream for them, which is unfair, but I still had to mourn it. I still had to say, okay, that was what I wanted.
Yeah.
I got to set that aside because, hey, Eric, what do you want most? Oh, I want their happiness most. Okay. Well, this is happiness for them. Great. But I still had to address that.
And I'm glad that you did address that. Okay, now I want to get to the FBI for real. Where do you begin? Do you just go to the FBI website? They say, hey, apply to be an agent. And then they call you for an interview. Is it that like average job process? Like, is it really? That's it?
John,
No?
It's not average. So I was applying in 2000 and the internet was just a babe. It was around enough so that I could download 60 pages to fill in by hand or on the computer. But like now it's all online and it's easy, but it's everywhere that you've been, done, came across since you were 16, extended family, phone numbers so they can talk to them, everywhere you lived, every job you've had, the employers, it's everything. You submit that as agents, and there's other positions, but as an agent, you have to have a bachelor's degree and at least 3 years experience outside of school so they can say, okay, you've grown up, you've got some maturity. And then the applicant coordinator looks at it and says, okay, this guy, I think he looks good enough, moves on. The phase 1 test. Phase 1 test is like taking the SAT. And I'm a pretty smart guy, but I took that SAT and went, I tried. Hey, at least give it a shot.
You're giving me PTSD. I hated those Saturdays when I had to take the SAT. I don't know how I was able to bear through that. So I get what you're saying.
Yeah. They come back and go, hey, we'd like to go further with you. Like, seriously? Oh,
really?
Yeah. And so with my background in talking to Muslims, studying Islam, In the meantime, while my application's in process, 9/11 hits and they go, oh, we've got an Al-Qaeda problem. This guy knows the people in Al-Qaeda. Let's come on board. So from there, it's oral test. You explain situations you've been in and how you responded. Written test, I can write. So like now it's more in my hands. PT test, I was in shape. Great, let's go. Physical, I'm fit. And
now,
then
can I ask when the management, so to speak, saw that you had that Islam experience, were they approaching it from he can help us like take down the enemy, or was it from the standpoint of like, oh, maybe like he can have a conversation with them and we could figure out like why it is and have some compassion and understanding? Like what does that mean?
So this is me guessing. Yeah. I mean, they may have just said, hey, this guy's he meets the mark, so we'll just pass him on. If he fails, he fails. But could have been, hey, we've got to recruit informants. This guy was trying to recruit people to leave their religions. Here's somebody who can recruit informants, but also help to understand in investigations what's the mindset here. But to that point, I get on with the FBI, and my first assignment was working drugs. So whatever.
Okay,
that's how the government goes. That's how the government works.
And this is like during the peak of 9/11 when the more of the focus was like terrorism, Islamophobia, like that kind of thing.
Yeah, in the wake of it. But so this was April 2002. And the process was just, we need bodies on a drug squad. Here's a body. We're going to put them on a drug squad. So they're just filling holes at that time.
Can you give me an experience that stands out from that drug era, like just like something where the classic, oh my God, I got to tell this story to my grandkids about this memorable drug incident?
Yeah. So I was working a wiretap I was loaned over to another office within our division called the Northern Satellite Office. So I lived northmost. They needed a body, so I went there. So we're sitting wiretaps on a guy who was selling crack. And I had been on wiretaps before, and like, okay, they're fine. Call comes in, you listen to it, you transcribe it, you mark it pertinent or not pertinent, and you get time. And maybe if there's a couple back to back, you got to play a little catch up, but hey, you got an 8-hour shift, no problem. This is the first time I'm sitting on a crack dealer's phone, and people were calling him as if they were all addicted to crack. Like, bam, bam, bam. I mean, it was impossible to keep up. And so we're doing that. And the whole goal was to pinch that dealer as he was getting dope from his supplier. And his supplier was an OG gangster from that area that my partners had been looking at for a long time. And they believe this guy was one of his buyers. Well, on the line, we hear of a deal where the subject we were really looking for was going to be bringing a kilo, maybe 2 of coke to the crack dealer. And so we set up on it, knock him down. The guys pitch him. He flips, ends up being a great informant because he's like mid-50s, been in the game for a long time, not hard to handle. Fantastic. So we send him into his supplier, and then we get up on his phone too. So we're listening to now a Mexican cartel affiliated dope dealer. And we send him in the OG into the cartel guy's apartment. He lived in a really nice condo just south of the Loop in Chicago. And he goes in, we've got like a little button camera, which that's not giving away. Like, we've got those. So he goes in, and the cartel guy shows him 45 kilos of cocaine that he just got, which is approximately $1 million.
Wow. So
my buddies write what's known as a surreptitious search warrant. So if I execute a search warrant at your house, while you're there, I have to show you, judge, this is proof that a judge authorized this. If you're not there, we leave it so that you can see, yep, authorized. A surreptitious search warrant is asking the judge, hey, may we delay notification? And so in a sense, we're breaking in to your house to get what we want. So the whole setup was, he's in this fancy gated condo where you need a card to get in and then there's out. And so I'm driving a van with like 5 guys in it, and we're waiting outside, and I'm watching the exit gate. And the whole goal is wait till that gate pops up, somebody leaves, and then I got to scream down it in the van. And I'm doing that while I am praying that nobody comes out at the same time.
Right.
We get in, we sit in the van where we can watch the doper's vehicle. He leaves, and then the guys go upstairs bust in the door and steal $1 million worth of cocaine that we hold on to as evidence. And then we got to go back and listen to the phone. And this guy is crying as he calls our now informant saying he's going to get killed because he just lost $1 million.
Wow. Lots at stake with the drugs. Lots at stake. Oh my God.
He's looking to make $1 million, but also if it gets stolen, you're out. He ended up getting arrested, didn't get killed. So that was okay.
Those high stakes, is there a certain adrenaline that comes through you to the point where like, oh yeah, like it's excited adrenaline. Like, oh my God, like this is going to be the chase of my life. And also, have you ever felt any guilt along the way for feeling said adrenaline? Because, at the end of the day, like somebody could get killed and these are drugs that could kill people and yada, yada, yada.
No, I didn't feel guilt. I felt good about it. But yes, prior to almost every arrest, I would get what I refer to as a search warrant tinkles. Cause like, here you are and you're ready to go and you're like, damn it, now I got to pee again. Like the body's like, hey, let's flush the system cause you got to get ready to fight. And so everybody's there thinking, oh, I gotta pee cause I'm all jazzed up.
You've mentioned dealing with teen prostitution tell me all about that world. I'm not familiar with it.
Good.
Yeah. I mean, that's not, obviously that's, well, no, I meant like in a strictly informational sense, obviously not in a personal experience sense. That would be bad, but tell me about that experience because I would imagine by nature of them being minors, the end goal is always the same, right? Is to get these teenagers out of this profession, which they legally should not be in. And what's that like? I mean, what's the ratio of like teenagers who are forced into this versus teenagers who maybe like they chose this, they want to do this, and maybe there's like some resistance. Like, how is that world for you?
Yeah, the percentage is 100 to nothing from my experience. So the teenagers are into it. Like they may be drawn into it a little bit, but the ones that we were running into were making that choice. Again, you're a 16-year-old making that choice. Obviously, it's not a good one. And it's a choice made out of desperation because they're abandoned. Every adult in their life is either useless or abusive, drug addict. So now they're on their own. And if you can imagine what it would be like for some woman in your life that to say, hey, what would it take for you to go out now and begin having sex with men you don't know for money? And they're all disgusting. I can tell you that. Like they're not hot guys. That threshold that you have to step over to do that is very significant. And that's for a mature woman, perhaps, who can like work through those issues. These are young girls who can't even know how to handle difficulties in their life. So the idea that they are doing this willingly shows how broken and or desperate they are already to make a choice to say, yeah, this is how I'm going to earn money. It's going to be having sex with disgusting men. So they are almost always doing this on their own. But the difference between you and me and the pimps is the pimps are looking for them so that they can manipulate them further and make money off of them. You and I, if we came across a young girl in this situation, would try to help them rather than exploit them. So yeah, our job was to get those men off the street and bring justice, punish them. And then the difficulty was working with the girls because, dude, I get slapped and spit on and cursed at because, I'm ruining their livelihood. I'm taking away the one adult who's ever loved them. He knows how to manipulate, but this girl thinks that's the only person who's ever been there for her, and I'm arresting them. So it took a while to separate them from each other. That oftentimes now would start to sink in that, yeah. Okay, I get it now. That guy was terrible.
Are these like 15-year-old girls that are, for legal reasons, trying to pass themselves off as like 21 or 22-year-olds, or are they like letting their clients explicitly know, okay, I'm a 15-year-old? You know what I mean?
They're not advertising that they're underage, because if they did, and this was years ago, so they were on Backpage mainly. Yeah. And so people know. It's almost like the Craigslist of like and Craigslist was.
Yeah, unfortunately, I know what Backpage is. Yeah.
And the great book on the takedown of Backpage by District Attorney out of New York. And there was always the FBI always fought the attorney generals trying to take down Backpage, because if you had Backpage, yes, you're proliferating prostitution, but then we at least knew where to go to find these underage girls. You take that away, and now how are we finding them? So
Yeah.
we were always, you could subpoena Backpage, you get the stuff back. If some Russian server comes in and says, hey, we're going to do this, now we couldn't get the information.
Yeah. Because nowadays, I don't even know how do you go through the yellow pages? Do you go through a street corner? Like, it's probably a lot less obvious nowadays with Backpage not being there anymore.
Yeah, I don't even know, because I've been out of it, and my buddies who work that now have angled more towards online undercovers, where they're looking for much worse people, the guys who are looking to offend against infants, or posing as somebody wanting to trade their children for someone else. So you can have my kids, here's their ages, then I can be with your kids. That's, as much as pimping is bad and the teen prostitution is bad, that stuff is just off the charts horrible.
In a scenario where you're successfully getting a teenage girl away from prostitution, are there active steps to get them involved in the regular job world? Like, do you do you say here's a brochure, or here's a website, or here's an employment agency, here's are resources that you could use to become a legitimate American employee, if that makes any sense?
Yeah. Here's a brochure.
I don't know. I'm just asking. Yeah, or is it just more so you get them out of prostitution and then they're left to fend on their own? Yeah.
So obviously we care. Our job is just our job isn't the girl. We know we're trying to get the girl safe, and we got to secure her so she can testify later, things like that. But our job is just the pimp. And so I remember the first time we're running an operation, and here's Pete, our long-term task force officer with Toledo PD, done undercover for so long with Vice, and he's targeting a prostitute he believes is underage. She comes in, we get her, she is underage, we arrest the pimp, and then I remember going, well, hell, now what do we do? Because we don't want to put them in jail because they're victims. They have committed a crime legitimately, but you don't want to do that. If you send them back to the foster home where they were, they're just going to run away again. They're just going to they'll just be targeted by another pimp. And so we operated best when we had social workers ready to work with us, some non-governmental organizations or ministries, charities who were there to say, hey, I'm a 40-year-old woman who used to prostitute. I've got 5 beds at my place where, girls can come. So when we had those next steps, they're out of our hands. We can't get hotel rooms for them. They're just going to prostitute out of them.
Right.
They're not staying at my place. So really, I remember the first time going, oh my gosh, now what? That part was easy. This is hard.
Money's tight for a lot of people nowadays, and it being America, this could be a perfect opportunity for those to really scam the financial system for their own benefit. I think of people like Bernie Madoff. He was big when I was just getting out of high school, going into college. He got arrested, and then I think he's now dead. Yeah, he died in jail, didn't he?
Yeah.
You had mentioned also dealing with financial crimes as an FBI agent. Can you give me again, much like with drugs, what's the most memorable or heartbreaking financial crime that stands out?
Well, the most memorable, this is the most memorable case I ever had because I worked it for many years. We had a main subject named Mark Wittenmeyer. And when I came to the Cleveland division working out of the Toledo office in 2010, I started working a case on him that came in saying, hey, he's been taking money from investors. And as I look into him, he started, and, ask your dad about this later, about MCI WorldCom and how people used to get calls to say, how much are you paying for your long distance? We can bundle it and you can pay 12 cents a minute. So he was involved in that in the mid 90s, and he was making $1 million a year in the 90s selling long distance legitimately. He's with MCI WorldCom, they go bust, and now he's moving on to new businesses where he has a real product. So he contracts with somebody else and says, hey, I can sell this. I'll get investors so that we can build out this technology, whatever it might be. And it was always real. It was legitimate. But when the money came in and people looked at him and go, that guy's successful because look at his house. He had a trophy wife. She was like the Heisman of trophy wives. A mansion was on the first tee of the country club, multiple Lamborghinis. All of that came from investor money. So people would give him $200,000 to say, oh, this is going to be a great product. And he would spend it on himself. And one of the products that he had that he was getting investors to give money to would eventually become Bing. And he defaulted on it. He defaulted on it because like he was just using the money for himself. Wow. So by the time I got onto him, he'd already bankrupted a handful of companies, and he had since then moved on to this crazy world that was fascinating. It was brokering counterfeit or fraudulent overseas bonds. And so Mark believed that he was bypassing American laws that you'd have to have a Series 7 license to be a broker by saying, hey, these are overseas, so I don't need that license, which was untrue. On top of that, all of these bonds were fake. So you look at them and they were just ridiculous. And he would be saying like, oh, I'm going to get 1 point commission if I can find a buyer for this $100 billion bond. And so he wasn't greedy. He was only going to get 1% of the 100 billion. And so I'd be interviewing people that he was calling and are part of this world. And I talked to one woman and she goes, no, this is absolutely true. Like these things are real. And she told me she had one client who owned a quad. And I said, what's a quad? And she said, that's a bond that's worth $1 quadrillion.
Okay. Damn.
And I don't know if there's $1 quadrillion in the world. Like probably I don't know, like a couple quadrillion. Elon will be the first quadrillionaire. If so. But they like this was the crazy stuff they believed in. And so Mark was saying, oh, I've got these people, I've got connections. He claimed he was meeting with the Knights of Malta. I don't know. Are you familiar with the Knights of Malta?
No, tell me more.
Oh, okay. Well, it sounds like some Curse of Oak Island, ancient group that has golden crowns and Scrooge McDuck money in a cave. Yeah. The Knights of Malta, I think Mark was either like mixing them up with the Knights Templar. Knights of Malta is a Catholic charity.
Oh, wow.
So he's saying, oh, I've got $100 billion deal with a Catholic charity. I mean, Catholic Church does have a lot of money, but
yeah, they do.
Anyway, this goes on and I finally get him because he got a hold of a Fannie Mae bond package. Wow. So now this is real. This is a real Fannie Mae bond, but he was selling that you could buy it for $15 million and it would mature to like $115 million. And yet what he was selling, he did not understand or he misrepresented on purpose. It was a bundle of mortgages. And it was sold to businesses who had been successful. So your company makes a lot of money this year and you need to buy something to offset that. And so you need to take on debt. And so this bond didn't mature to $115 million. It would mature to zero. So over time, as you pay off your house and I pay off my house, it's the debt is less. Yeah. And so it got down to actually zero. But he was claiming otherwise. And he convinced someone to invest in it. He and his partner get $500,000. It would be $1 million so 500 on the buy side, 500 on the sell side. And he spent $500,000 in 45 days and he spent it on nothing. Wow. He bought nothing of value, just gambling, restaurants, luggage, like piddly stuff, like the kind of thing that if I challenged you, you would have a hard time doing, but just burned right through it. And then, so that's what kicked off the prosecutor to say, okay, let's finally get him. And so we charged him with all the stuff. This case that I worked on for years, this case on this guy, I couldn't stand and was like hurting so many victims. They gave him 5.5 years, which I thought was ridiculous, but that didn't matter because he spent like a year in prison and then he got let out for compassionate release for COVID.
Compassionate release for COVID. They didn't want him infecting anybody else in prison, so they let him out for his and everybody else's health.
So you could petition to say nonviolent crime. Here's some extenuating circumstances. Please let me out. Maybe I have a health issue. So his partner was, he caught another charge and fought him both times. He got put in later. And so he was in for like 2 months when he applied to get out. And his argument was he was fat. and when you're fat, you're more likely to get COVID. And the judge said, denied.
So for civil rights violations, tell me about that. Was it just specifically racially based? Was it just all around sort of human rights things that you were dealing with? Like, tell me a story that stands out.
Oh.
So many of them. Oh my God.
Well, so the FBI works a few different civil rights violations.
Yeah.
So There's the FACE Act, which is freedom of access to clinics. There could be racial, which is freedom to access housing or federal byways, that type of thing. So based on color, beliefs, gender. And then what we mainly worked in Chicago was color of law violations, which is a police officer going beyond violating your constitutional rights in the line of duty. So when I got onto that squad in Chicago, my buddy Jake was working a case where a Chicago police officer was arresting a guy in a wheelchair outside of a hospital. Guy was like getting mouthy with him, spit on him. He's handcuffed to the wheelchair. Officer went to his vehicle, got a sapper, which is a lead-filled piece of leather, and then beat him with it while he was handcuffed. That's illegal. I mean, the guy instigated it, but you can't do that. And so he lost his job. And at that point, the prosecutor's office says, let's just leave it at that. Like, the guy's no longer a cop. He got pushed too far and he went too far. Well, the police union was so good, they got his job back. And that's when he ended up going to jail, because at that point it triggered like, all right, well, let's get him then. So we would look into, police going too far. I mean, it would be a Fourth Amendment violation of undue seizure. So if I break your arm, if I arrest you and there's no probable cause to it, if it's not just, then that's an illegal seizure. If I kill you when I should not, I have seized your life. And that's illegal. So I get into Chicago. My buddy Jake and the rest of the team there are already working a case on Chicago Police Commander John Burge, who in the 70s and 80s, along with his team of detectives, were regularly torturing subjects of investigations. And the subjects were almost exclusively black males. So they would beat them with phone books, use typewriter covers to asphyxiate them. And we heard many, many stories of what Burge and his team had done to get confessions out of these men. There was this long story how Burge, who was a Vietnam soldier, used a Vietnam era crank phone. So you crank it, it would conduct electricity, and he would attach the alligator clips to the genitals of the subject and shock them until they finally gave in. So we're not looking at bank records because they're not around. We can't subpoena phone records. We were exclusively making this case based on interviews. And these were events that happened 20, 25 years prior. The reason we were able to go after him was Elliot Ness style against Al Capone. A few years prior, Burge had been sued by one of the victims in federal court civilly. And in his testimony, he said that he knew nothing of torture that took place in Chicago's police area 2, where he worked. And if we could prove that he did know because he did it, then that would be perjury and obstruction of justice. So we were going back, interviewing people, trying to remember things from 15 to 25 years ago and give us those details, talking to many of the victims. And these victims were actually criminals. So many of them were tortured, and so we're getting their story, but they also had committed the crime. So one guy was telling me about how Burge and his team, black male, had taken him under a bridge. He was handcuffed behind his back, and then one of the detectives stood on the bumper of a vehicle and lifted up on his hands until he thought his arms were going to tear out. And he said because he confessed to the crime, he missed his mother's funeral, who died while he was in prison. And I said, well, did they make you confess to something you didn't do? Because I wanted to know.
Yeah.
And he said, no, but I never would have confessed. And I thought, okay, well, don't try to get sympathy for me for that. We're going to work on getting justice against these police officers, because if you tell me that you raped a girl and then the dad came and cut off parts of your body, I don't have a problem with that, but the police can't do that. And that was the issue, that these police officers were out there torturing. So down to the wire, we ended up getting a charge on John Burge and got a conviction. And I remember with all these stories we had heard about these guys being so tough, John Burge was 4 years older than I am now when we arrested him. He was 61. And I remember looking at him like he looked like he was 81, just fragile and weak. And that stood out to me, that this guy, not even far removed from being that man, was just a shell. And he's dead now, which is great. Fantastic.
SWAT operating. This happened during your FBI tenure. Tell me what a SWAT operator does. How did you get into it? Like what's that all about?
SWAT is an ancillary job. So while I'm a field agent, I'm doing investigations. Then I'm also going to SWAT training, call outs, coming back and doing my investigations. So it's, you're doing everything an agent does. You're just more trained. We have a few more tools, and we're called when the threat level gets a little bit higher. So this guy's a gang member, violent criminal history, guns, cameras, dogs, whatever it might be, difficult breach, difficult terrain. Now SWAT's called in because we have a bit more proficiency than agents have on squads. So we get called in, and I don't know what to say. You're just badass. Like, it's the kind of thing that men, and we have our first female operator in Cleveland, great person, but you just want to be a part of, because you get to do dangerous things, fulfilling things, but it's incredible the bonds that come when you are working at a high level next to someone else, and both of you are regularly looking to support and defend the next one with your life if need be. So we're going through life and death situations, and then we come out of it, and that's going to bond. You become closer to these men because you've spent that time together supporting one another. So great time. I enjoyed it. I have a buddy who told me once, he graduated from Princeton, and he said, I'm looking at all my friends from college, and they're CEOs and doctors and doing great things. And I said, AJ, you're on an FBI SWAT team. They all wish they were you.
Yeah, that is true. Has there ever been a mission where you or other SWAT members thought, oh crap, I don't know if this mission could be accomplished, and we're scared. We're not sure how this is going to turn out? Or has it always been 100% confidence going in and mission accomplished?
Yeah, I was never scared. I never got the sense that anyone else was scared, because we were so well trained, and we're watching that, and I'm seeing, I know what I can do, and I feel fully capable. And then I look at the guys next to me, and they're at least as capable as I am.
Yeah.
Then you're going in, like, even in complicated situations that break down and might not have gone the way you expected, we're still adapting and getting through it. So never afraid. Like, there was one time we had a barricaded subject, a woman with mental health issues with her 10-year-old son. And she said, if you guys come in here, bring body bags, because people are going to die. And one of the triggers for us making entry while we waited with the negotiators to do their job was if she fired a shot. And she got upset, fired a shot through the door. And I remember looking at my team leader going, that's a gunshot. Are we going? And I wasn't scared, but I was very sobered, thinking, well, I might just very soon find out what it feels like to get shot. And I bet that's not going to be fun.
And did you?
I did not. So the team leaders talked about it with the negotiators, came to a consensus that she's still not threatening her kid. She's just got something buzzing in her head. So let's let this play out. So we had taken over for another SWAT team they had been all night long. We took over in the morning, and then we got another SWAT team then replaced us in the afternoon. So as we're walking a few hundred yards away, and I'm peeling off all this gear from full day in the heat, it was like 5 minutes after they took our place, one shot and then another shot. And they had decided they had no patience for this, started rattling her door with their robot. She goes out back, takes a shot at a sniper through the window, and the sniper put one in her face.
In your entire time with the FBI and the SWAT team, have you ever been shot at?
Have you ever been shot at?
Yeah. Like, have you ever been shot? Like, have you ever had a bullet go through you?
No.
Wow.
So as I started in the FBI, my wife would like text me. I'm in Chicago. She's like, tell me when you're safe. And I'm like,
yeah,
babe, I'm not getting shot. I'll die of a car accident or heart attack. That's how I'm going to die. And then later in my career, as I've been successful, been safe on SWAT, I would say to her, hey, babe, we got an op coming on Tuesday. And she'd say, okay, I'll put it in the calendar. And I'd say, well, the guy's kind of dangerous too. And she'd say, right. And I'd say, he told an informant he wouldn't be taken alive. And she'd go, I said I'd put it in the calendar. What do you want me to do? And so she'd gone from like being really worried to like, he's always home safe. Everything's fine. So 24 years I got through it, not getting shot.
And is that a pure case of luck, or is that just like a normal like likelihood for agents? Like they barely get shot at.
Yeah. So it's likelihood. So when unlike the police, so you're a police officer, dispatcher sends you to an address and you're getting whatever you get. pull it out of the bag. Who knows what's happening? The FBI almost always gets to dictate time, place, and circumstances for our arrest. So we know it's Tuesday. And these are the guys who have rogered up to say, I can be there. And this is your assignment, your assignment. And we're going to run through the drills. And here's video of the front door. Here's pictures of the side. Like, we have gamed this in a way that is so much different. So especially SWAT. So when we show up and you're asleep and we get a tactical surrounding of the house and guys are in position, lasers on the guns pointing at windows, and then on the loudspeaker, now we start saying, FBI, come on out with your hands up. Flashbangs being thrown. Guys look out the window and they have two choices: surrender or they're going to die. So it really brings that safety factor up, because some guys are going to be stupid, but usually they're like, I knew this was coming and here it is.
And now for what I ask every guest, these 3 delicious questions. I want to know, Eric Robinson, what is a delicious meal you've had lately?
So I've been keto for about 12 years.
What does that
mean? My children would say, I don't know what delicious is anymore. But you know what's great is for me, it's really narrowed down into like appreciating essential things. So
sorry, before you go on, can you clarify what keto means? Because you say keto and I think, I've seen like keto bread in the grocery store, but I've never known what the word keto means.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I say keto as shorthand. I just live low carb. So I don't eat sugar. I minimize the sugars that are in any sauces or stuff. And then I just don't eat carbohydrates. I take in probably about 25, 30 grams of carbohydrates a day. So enough that it's ancillary and I don't worry about it. But because of that, my kids go, you don't know what good tastes like. So my answer is like, these lips haven't tasted a legitimate pizza for a dozen years. So
Now, was this decision to go keto, was that advised by a doctor, or was that just you deciding that you wanted to do this?
John, do you have fat pants in your closet?
I have pants that may be a little too chunky for me, but I don't know if I would describe them as fat pants. Why?
So I just got tired of like, I was never out of shape.
Yeah.
But like, I was tired of like gaining 5 pounds and like, 5 pounds are fine. It's probably muscle anyway. And then 8 pounds and then 12 pounds and then 15 pounds. And then let me starve myself for 2 weeks and get back. And then it would just go up again. And so I have weighed the exact same for 10, 12 years. And I eat whatever I want in the realm of these things that I like. So like when you say, what's something delicious? I love cauliflower and cheese, man. It tastes great.
Okay. And now when we say cauliflower and cheese, the cauliflower is cooked. Are you having sliced cheese, a bar cheese? Like what are we talking about?
Well, the best for me is my sister has this cheeseburger casserole, which probably sounds gross to you, but it's cauliflower cooked or riced up with a little bit of mustard, cheese, onion, and some hamburger. And again, my kids would tell me I don't know what good tastes like anymore, but that tastes good to me.
So the cheeseburger part of it, isn't the cheeseburger part of it like high on carbs or no?
No. I mean, you have a little bit of sugar in the lactose, but again, that's fine. You have fiber in the cauliflower as carbohydrates. I don't care. Yeah. And then with everything else, it's very low carb and tastes delicious.
And cheese is normally low carb too, right?
Yes. Cheese is low carb. Again, there's some lactose to it. So there's that bit of sugar that, whatever, that's secondary, that's ancillary. I don't worry about that too much.
So when you're committing to this keto diet, low carb diet, first thing I'm thinking of is, are you like feeling sustained and full when you eat your complete meal? Like, are you feeling bloated? Are you feeling just right where you're not wanting to pass out, but you also don't feel the need to eat more? Like what's
I eat more than I should probably. I eat plenty. So I'm eating, this is my life. Like
you can put more in your stomach with a keto diet is what you're saying.
Absolutely. I enjoy vegetables. So I've got a low cal dip and I'm eating veggies and dip. I'm taking this is how it works. While you're having a sandwich, I am too. I just have to wash my hands afterwards because I'm taking meat and cheese and dipping it in guac and, getting my hands met. And then those 40 grams of carbohydrates that come from 2 pieces of bread that taste like crap anyway, I'm missing out on it. Granted, bread can taste good. I know this. But I like 10, 12 years living easy lifestyle.
How about a delicious piece of pop culture that you're loving? Is there like a TV show, movie, book, play, podcast, music, anything in the culture that you're really on right now?
So what's great is I'm with my wife in bed and I go, babe, do you trust me?
Yeah.
And she goes, yes. And I said, let's watch Game of Thrones.
Ah, yes. That was a phenomenon once. Yes.
I said, I know you don't like dragons and magic and whatnot, but trust me, it's a really good show. And I've watched it a couple times, but it'd been years. So great. And so I'm walking her through it. This is what's fun is I get to experience it again with someone else. And we're watching Game of Thrones. And she's like, this is amazing. And I said, yeah, this is great. So now I go, babe, do you trust me? And so now we're in season 1 of The Wire, where I've watched it a few times. So like, let me introduce you to possibly the greatest TV show ever made. Like, let's watch it.
So season 1, yes, definitely like some of the best television that I've ever.
Two was rough. 2 was rough.
It is. And that's why I fell off The Wire, because like season 2, when they were talking about like, what was the whole thing with the
people in shipping containers? And
I think the common thread through all the seasons is that it takes place in Baltimore, but each season has a different cast of characters and how they handle the whole, Baltimore legal system of sorts. But season 1 just seems like this very like action-packed, intense, like we're gonna hunt down these drug dealers in these neighborhoods, and
it's so accurate too. It's so like this. Actually, it's not accurate in that dopers are just not as strict as those guys. That's what they should do, but people get lazy. So like those layers that Avon Barksdale has, dopers just like they do it for a while and then it's human nature to get lazy. They stick with it.
Yeah. And I just remember like, the actor that unfortunately is not with us anymore, Michael K. Williams, or he plays Omar. He plays Omar, and Omar was, he was pretty much like the big cheese of drug dealers that they were hunting after in season 1, right?
He was the one who was robbing all the other guys.
And I just remember like how interesting he was, because it's like,
yes.
Here is this like symbol of like illegal machismo, but also he had a homosexual thing about him. So it was I was like, oh, okay, that's a take that I've never seen before.
Indeed.
Yeah, and then I believe Idris Elba, I was introduced to him through The Wire, and Michael B. Jordan was just a kid when he played Wallace.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, good pull. Yeah, he played Wallace.
Yeah, and he got shot. I think he died.
Don't ruin it for me. No,
it's been many years, but no, man. I remember hearing my college roommate, like, because we had like bunk beds. I was on the lower one, he was on the upper one, and I remember hearing him like watch The Wire and just thinking like, okay, I gotta like get on this show that I seem to be hearing so much about. And I saw that first season and was just absolutely blown away. So that's a great choice. That is a great choice.
But what's fun with that and Game of Thrones is I know what's happening, but now I'm understanding it more because I've already seen it a few times and now I'm not missing stuff. But then I get to experience it with someone who's doing it for the first time going, oh, wow. And then why are they doing this? I'm like, just wait.
So when did you watch The Wire? Was this before you were in FBI and SWAT? Was this after?
No,
was it during?
No. I was in the FBI at the time. And it was after I had already been sitting on wires. So then I'm watching it and I go, oh man, this is good. This is like how we did it.
Okay. Yeah. I was going to say like, what is the barrier of like realism between what you see in The Wire and what you see in real life with law enforcement? And you're saying it was pretty accurate. Yeah.
Yes. And I worked gangs as well. And so like the idea of like, you can't get in with them. They're going to know people, like that's absolutely true. Like you're getting called out ahead of time. But when I was working wire shifts, like you're either working a wire shift, you're on the street supporting it on surveillance, or those few times you get in the office, now you're writing up the reports from the surveillance that you did. So it was just, I logged time my first few years in the FBI by which wires we were on because it was one after another.
Anything in the show The Wire that you thought like, oh, okay, no, that's kind of stretching it a little bit. That's not what actually happens.
Not really. I mean, and also like this is going to be Baltimore police. So I can only say what we would do. I mean, even their interactions with the feds, I'm like, yeah, that seems about right. Like guys looking to work together all the time.
Game of Thrones, I got to try it again. Personally, I tried it. I think the first time that I tried it was with my then girlfriend at the time when I lived in Iowa. She was into it. I wasn't, but I hear that's not abnormal. I hear it can be kind of like slow to get into it at first and then like it picks up at some point. What was your experience with it? Were you into it from the beginning or did it take a while for you?
From go. I mean, they did enough to draw you in with the characters from the beginning, where for me, I was good. And I'm pretty sure my wife took to it in early as well, because you see guys like Joffrey, like, I hate that guy. Like, this guy's terrible. And so now you've got this compelling character. You've already got the brother and sister harming the kid. And like, oh my God. Like, so there's enough going on where you can start seeing the intrigue, and then it just doesn't let up. And I remember thinking, oh yeah, but the last season is so weak. And then when I watched it again, I thought, that was better than I thought. Like, it's still disappointing, but good enough. Like, your expectations were so high from all the other seasons that it just didn't meet the others. You expect it to like go out on a high, and it went on a
Can you clarify the overall story arc of Game of Thrones? Because from what little I understand of it, it just seems to be, here are a bunch of people fighting to claim this throne. A bunch of people get killed along the way that you maybe thought wouldn't be killed because there's such major characters in the story. Is that the gist, or am I missing something?
Yeah, that's a lot of it. That's a lot of it. But on watching it again, and I've been through it. Like, what I would do is I'd watch season 1, and then season 2 is coming out, and I'd watch season 1 and season 2, and then season 3 is coming out. I watch 1, 2, 3, and so there's some that I'd watched over and over. But what I was pointing out to my wife as we watched it together is, here are so many of the unlikely pairings then too. So they start with everybody together. King Robert's killed, and there's a diaspora where everyone is everywhere fighting wars. And then you've got Ari with the Hound, and you're like, that doesn't seem right. That's odd. And then you've got Jamie with the big lady. I'm forgetting names already.
That's okay.
Like, you see these pairings, you go, that's interesting. That shouldn't have been there before. You've got Sansa, who's now with the little guy.
Peter Dinklage.
So his character. All the names that I had on hand, but forget now that we started watching. But interesting to see how here's everyone and their families. A bomb goes off, and there's just a spreading of people to the corners. And then when they fight the Ice King at the end, now they're coming back together.
When Game of Thrones was on, I mean, I think this was like in the 2010s on HBO, like, it was so big that even if you weren't watching the show like me, like, you just knew. Like, there were some mainstream pop culture viral moments within Game of Thrones that it seemed like everybody knew about. Like, for instance, the Red Wedding.
Yeah.
The Red Wedding is essentially like, Game of Thrones is known for killing major characters off, so let's like put that on steroids and kill like a bunch of people all at the same time, kind of like a Saturday Night Massacre. Is that what it was?
Yeah, I remember like texting a buddy like, hey, the Red Wedding's going to be today. When my wife's watching it, she's not going to be ready for this.
Now, why are a bunch of people getting killed at a wedding or in a wedding episode? What was the whole thing behind that?
The whole thing behind it was, so you're asking me more questions about Game of Thrones than I expected in this
I'm sorry. I'm just curious. I'm sorry. You don't have to answer them if you don't want to.
It's because Robb Stark had been promised to marry one of Walder Frey's daughters, and then he fell in love with, I forget her name, but it's Una Chaplin, who is Charlie Chaplin's granddaughter, the actress. So he falls in love with her, they get married, and then he goes back to Walder Frey and says, oopsie sorries, but here's my uncle that can marry one of your daughters. And Walder's like, that's fine, water under the bridge. And then it's not water under the bridge. He's going to kill everybody as vengeance.
And wasn't there an episode where like a crew member mistakenly left a coffee cup in the scene, and it was like what was the whole thing behind that? It was just like they were just lazy in editing and didn't edit that out. Yeah, there's a Starbucks
there. I would assume by now they've like wanted it out, and so I'm not sure if I can see it anymore.
Yeah. Now, why was there so much criticism with the series finale? Like, was it just like people that survived didn't deserve to, people that were killed didn't deserve to? Like, what was the whole thing behind that? Do you know?
I think it's because like you expect it to like build, and then near the end you're like, it's marathon runner at the end, like staggering to get across the line, and part of it was the final scene is leaders from different families are there saying, let's pick a king, and they pick a king because he's got the best story. I'm like, that's booty cheeks, as they say.
That's a very funny way of saying that's ass. I love that.
Yes.
That's booty cheeks. I'm going to use that. What is a delicious thing that's happened in your life lately? This just could be any personal positive life event that you want to share with us.
I wrote a book.
Oh my God. Yes, you did. Tell me about that, because I hear about like how both rewarding and difficult and regretful writing a book can be. Like, what's the book about? And tell me about the process of writing it.
The book is about what happens if you take a Baptist pastor and you stick him in the FBI for 24 years. And it's even though I was in the FBI and I really felt like that identity meant more to me, the person who I was as a pastor was still that same, and that's weaving throughout. So many of those times talking to the runaway teens, interrogating terrorists, talking to white supremacists, like it was still me who was pastoring before, and now this person has just got this role as FBI agent. So that's the thread that runs through it. And I tell the stories of many of these cases or experiences that I had along the way, either investigations I initiated or just got to be a part of. And some of them are pretty remarkable. I mean, I get into more detail of some of the things that we talked about, but it's just that thread running throughout. The book, as you mentioned, is called Irreverent, from saving souls to chasing sinners. First time I messed it up.
I thought it was called Irreverent, from saving souls to chasing sinners in the FBI. Is that
in the FBI?
Okay, gotcha.
I've been drinking a lot.
That's okay.
Finally got to me. That is the title. You are actually correct. Sitting down, my wife says to me, "You should write a book." And I said, "Yeah, but I never took notes, and I should have, of all the things that, like, oh, this was cool and we did this." But I found that once I sat down on the computer, like, stories just come.
Wow.
Here they are, and they're flowing. And so I'd write about this guy, like, yeah, and then we did this and we did that. And I'd finish that chapter and I'd go, all right, I'm going to write about this case. And I sat down one Saturday and worked all day. And then I get to the end of the day and we're going to go to bed. And I go, hey, I've got 10,000 words. And my wife's like, how do you have 10,000 words? I said, it just comes.
That's great.
So there's been that process now of going back and sharpening. And I've probably written the book. Like, it took me about 5 weeks to write. This is the book. And it, there's the ship of Theseus here. Like, it changes a bit along the way each time, but it's still the book. And I've probably rewritten it, like going through and then sharpening, going through and taking out, another 20 times.
And that was at your own preference, or did you like talk with a publisher and they said like, oh, well, I recommend you cut this out or keep this in? Like, what was that like?
First, it was me. I'm going through. I'm like, oh, there's an error. Let's tighten this. And then I had an editor to act as a beta reader. Okay. So she went through and she goes, how about this? What does this mean? This isn't clear. And, and then she's talking to me and she goes, hey, do you understand the term kill your darlings? And I said, yes. And she said, look, find things in here that are unnecessary. And I said, absolutely. And so what I did is I went through and I'd read, here's that story of working on Mark in that financial case. And one of the paragraphs is about how we subpoenaed his daughter to testify because he had sent money through her bank account. And it was kind of an interesting interaction of how we're trying to get a daughter to have to testify and her dad, and she was fighting with us, and how I just sat in her driveway and turned on the reds and blues until she came out because she was stonewalling us. Like, but then I read it and I go, doesn't add to it. That's an okay story. But then the idea was, if you cut out the okay parts, then the very good parts stand out more. So now I'm going through and like, that's not worth it.
Yeah.
That one's not worth it.
Yeah. You say kill your darlings. Another term is trim the fat. Like, and I've been through this many times before as an editor of all kinds, from scripts to podcasts. Like, oh man, I personally love this detail about, I don't know, the cow or the apple stem, but does it lead to the main point of the story, which is learning to put your seatbelt on? I don't know. I'm just making an example.
Right. And so part of it is it keeping in line? And for me, I would allow, like, that story is really good. And if it's really good, then okay, we can have an aside. And here's where I defeated that process. So I'd write a chapter about a case, and then I would do what we do in the FBI and in the military, an after action review, which is going back and saying, this is why this worked. This is what I learned from this. This is how we almost screwed it up, some other things. And that allowed me to put in another just small story of, like, maybe this is how it ended, how it followed up, or here's a quick story about a case that was like it. And that allowed me to add things that I thought were still interesting, but they were not by any means a standalone chapter. So lessons learned, and also here's how we applied it in this case too, really briefly.
All right. Once again, the book is called Irreverent: From Saving Souls to Chasing Sinners in the FBI, and it will be available wherever we can find books in October.
And if folks want to find out more and follow along, they can go to my website, which is preachertobreacher.com.
You have any social media, Eric, that we can follow you at?
I do. I used to have it, and all I did was like troll bad guys on it. And my wife says, you need to have actual ones with your name. So years and years of following bad guys, now I had to get stuff in my name. So surprisingly, in January, _Eric_Robinson was available. So that's me on Instagram. Or you can go to LinkedIn, put in my name and FBI, and you'll see this face.
Just Instagram and LinkedIn.
Yeah, I mean, you can go to Facebook too, but I don't need old people. Isn't old people? And I'm too old for TikTok, so I'm in between there.
Understandable. All right. Well, follow Eric, please. This is great work that he's putting out there, and I can't wait to get the book when it's released. For those of you, as always, listening and watching to The Delicious Culture, you can follow us wherever you get your podcasts: YouTube, Apple, Spotify, SiriusXM, Amazon, just wherever. If you're on Spotify, leave a 5-star rating if you like what you hear and watch, and that would be great. And if you're on Apple Podcasts, leave a written review. That really helps the algorithm. Email thedeliciousculture@gmail.com with any feedback. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok at The Delicious Culture. We have 2 different YouTube channels, just to clarify, at Jon Francois Clips for the shorter clips of this podcast, and for the full episodes at The Delicious Culture Jon Francois. And Jon Francois is spelled JONFRANCOIS. Eric, this was great. We have to do this again.
Absolutely. I got time.
Yeah, the perks of being retired.
Yep.
And for all you listening and watching, let deliciousness ring.